What's up, chat? Welcome to the daily 1 year Bible stream. If you are new to the stream, this is where we read the 1 year Bible. Today we're on day 218 in a row. And today we're going to be reading from August the 6th. Why August the 6th? 6th because we're 2 days early, and in our 1 year Bible read, I just had kind of like that's pretty funny. And today we're going to be reading from Ezra 3 1 through 4, 1 through verse 23, then 1 Corinthians 2 6 through 3, going through verse 4, and then Psalms 28 1 through 9, and then Proverbs 20 24 through 25. Oh, okay. And everybody who was in the stream, the basketball stream before, I was so upset about not finishing the 50 shots before my phone died. I was so upset about not finishing that, bro. I sat there for 5 minutes and talked to myself. Oh man, about how unacceptable that is. Oh man, that's pretty funny. But I did finish. I did hit three threes in a row to finish it off. Um, but I was so hot with myself about not finish. I played around too much. I played around too much, and I was hot with myself about that. Not gonna lie. Um, but sidebar over. Let's get into the 1 year Bible read tonight. Now Ezra 3 1 through 4, going to verse 23. In early autumn, when the Israelites had settled their own towns, all the people assembled in Jerusalem with a unified purpose. Then Jeshua, son of Jozadak, joined his fellow priest and Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, with his family in rebuilding the altar of the God of Israel. They wanted to sacrifice burnt offerings on it, as instructed in the law of Moses, the man of God. And even though there were people afraid of the local residents, they rebuilt the altar at this old site. Then they began to sacrifice burnt offerings on the altar to the Lord each morning and evening. They celebrated the festival of shelters as prescribed in the law, sacrificing them with burnt offerings specified for each day of the festival. They also offered the regular burnt offerings and the offerings required for the new moon celebrations and annual festivals as prescribed by the Lord. The people also gave voluntary offerings to the Lord. 15 days before the festival of shelters began, the priests had begun to sacrifice burnt offerings to the Lord. This was even before they had started to lay the foundation of the Lord's temple. Then the people hired masons and carpenters and bought cedar logs from the people of Tyre and Sidon, paying them with food, wine, and olive oil. The logs were brought down from the Lebanon mountains and floated along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea to Joppa, for King Cyrus, that had given permission for this. The construction of the temple of God began in mid-spring, during the second year after they arrived in Jerusalem. The workforce was made up of everyone who had returned from exile, including Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, Joshua, son of Jozadak, and his fellow priests and all the Levites. The Levites, who were 20 years old or older, were put in charge of rebuilding the Lord's temple. The workers at the temple of God were supervised by Joshua with the sons and relatives, and Camdel and his sons, all descendants of Hodaviah. How are we doing, Forrest? They were helped in this task by the Levites of the family of Henanadad. When the builders completed the foundation of the Lord's temple, the priests put on their robes and took their
Gatorlight,
places.
a specialized blend of 5 electrolytes for rapid rehydration. Gatorlight, is it in?
Oh man. Alright, let's keep going. I The priests put on their robes and took their places to blow the trumpets. And the Levites, descendants of Asaph, clashed their cymbals to praise the Lord, just as King David had prescribed. With praise and thanks, they sang this song to the Lord. He is so good, his faithful love for Israel endures forever. Then all the people gave a great shout, praising the Lord because the foundation of the Lord's temple had been laid. But many of the older priests, Levites, and the older leaders who had seen the first temple wept aloud when they saw the new temple's foundation. The others, however, were shouting for joy. Joyful shouting and weeping mingled together in a loud noise that could be heard far in the distance. The enemies of Judah and Benjamin heard that the exiles were building a temple to the Lord, the God of Israel. So they approached Zerubbabel and the leaders and said, "Let us build with you, for we worship your God just as you do. We have sacrificed to him ever since King Esarhaddon of Assyria brought us here." But Zerubbabel, Jeshua, and the other leaders of Israel replied, You may have no part in this work. We alone will build the temple for the Lord, the God of Israel, just as King Cyrus of Persia had commanded us. Then the local residents tried to discourage and frighten the people of Judah to keep them from their work. They bribed agents to work against them and frustrate their plans. This went on during the entire reign of King Cyrus of Persia, and lasted to King Darius of Persia took the throne. Years later, when Xerxes began his reign, the enemies of Judah wrote a letter of accusation against the people of Judah and Jerusalem. Even later, during the reign of King Artaxerxes of Persia, the enemies of Judah, led by Bishlam, Mithredath, and Tabel, sent a letter to Artaxerxes in the Aramaic language. And it was golly, all right, stop, just stop, just stop. Take a breath, and just stop. I cannot let that frustration with myself move over into this. Reset, reset. Sorry, chat, forgive me. Okay, all right. Even later, during the reign of King Artaxerxes of Persia, the enemies of Judah, led by Bishlam, Mithredath, and Tabel, sent a letter to Artaxerxes in the Aramaic language, and it was translated for the king. Rehum, the governor, and Shimshai, the court secretary, wrote the letter, telling King Artaxerxes about the situation in Jerusalem. They greeted the king for all their colleagues and the judges and local leaders, the people of Tarpel, the Persians, the Babylonians, and the people of Erech and Susa, that is, Elam. They also sent greetings from the rest of the people whom the great and noble Ashburnapal had deported and relocated in Samaria and throughout the neighboring lands of the province of west of the Euphrates River. This is a copy of their letter. To King Artaxerxes, from your loyal subjects in the province west of the Euphrates River. The king should know that the Jews who came here to Jerusalem from Babylon are rebuilding this rebellious and evil city. They have already laid the foundation and will soon finish its walls. And the king should know that if this city is rebuilt and its walls are completed, it will be much to your disadvantage. For the Jews will then refuse to pay their tribute, customs, and tolls to you. Since we are your loyal subjects and do not want to see the king dishonored in this way, we have sent the king this information. We suggest that a search be made in your ancestors' records, where you discover what a rebellious city this has been in the past. In fact, it was destroyed because of its long and troublesome history of revolt against the kings and countries who controlled it. We declare to the king that if the city is rebuilt and its walls are completed, the province west of the Euphrates River will be lost to you. Then King Artaxerxes sent this reply. To Rehum the governor, Shimshai the court secretary, and the colleagues living in Samaria and throughout the province west of the Euphrates River. Greetings. The letter you have sent has been translated and read to me. I ordered a search of the records and found that Jerusalem has indeed been a hotbed of insurrection against many kings. In fact, rebellion and revolt are normal there. Powerful kings have ruled over Jerusalem and the entire province west of the Euphrates River, receiving tribute, customs, and tolls. Therefore, issue orders to have these men stop their work. The city must not be rebuilt except at express at my command. Be diligent and don't neglect this matter, but we must not permit the situation to harm the king's interest. When his letter from King Artaxerxes was read to Rehum, Shimshai, and their colleagues, they hurried to Jerusalem. Then, with a show of strength, they forced the Jews to stop building. And now 1 Corinthians 2:6-4. Yet, when I am among mature believers, I do speak with words of wisdom, but not the kind of wisdom that belongs to this world or to the rulers of this world, who are soon to be forgotten. No, the wisdom we speak of is the mystery of God, his plan that was previously hidden, even though he had made it for our ultimate glory before the world began. But the rulers of this world have not understood it. If they had, they would not have crucified our glorious Lord. That is what the scriptures mean when they say, "No eye has seen, no ear has heard, and no mind has imagined what God has prepared for those who love him." But it was to us that God revealed these things by his Spirit. For his Spirit searches out everything and shows us God's deep secrets. No one can know a person's thoughts except that person's own spirit, and no one can know God's thoughts except God's own spirit. And we have received God's Spirit, not the world's spirit, so we can know the wonderful things God has freely given us. When we tell you these things, we do not use words that come from human wisdom. Instead, we speak words given to us by the Spirit, using the Spirit's words to explain spiritual truths. But people who aren't spiritual can't receive these truths from God's Spirit. It all sounds foolish to them, and they can't understand it. For only those who are spiritual can understand what the Spirit means. Those who are spiritual can evaluate all the things, but they themselves cannot be evaluated by others. For who can know the Lord's thoughts? Who knows enough to teach him? But we understand these things, for we have the mind of Christ. Dear brothers and sisters, when I was with you, I couldn't talk to you as I would be two spiritual people. I had to walk as though you belonged to this world, or as though you were infants in Christ. I had to feed you with milk, not with solid food, because you weren't ready for anything stronger. And you still aren't ready, for you're still controlled by your sinful nature. You are jealous of one another and quarrel with each other. Doesn't that prove you're controlled by your sinful nature? Or aren't you living like the people of the world? When one of you says, "I'm a follower of Paul," and another says, "I'm a follower of Apollos," aren't you acting just like the people of the world? And now Psalms 28, 1-9. I pray to you, O Lord, my rock. Do not turn a deaf ear to me. For if you are silent, I might as well give up and die. Listen to my prayer for mercy as I cry out to you for help, and as I lift my hands towards your holy sanctuary. Do not drag me away with the wicked, with those who do evil, those who speak friendly words to their neighbors while planning evil in their hearts. Give them the punishment they so richly deserve, and measure out in proportion to their wickedness. Pay them back for all their evil deeds, and give them a taste of what they have done to others. They care nothing for what the Lord has done, or for what his hands have made, so he will tear them down, and they will never be rebuilt. Praise the Lord, for he has heard my cry for mercy. The Lord is my strength and shield, and I trust him with all my heart. He helps me, and my heart is filled with the joy. I burst out in songs of thanksgiving. The Lord gives his people strength. He is a safe fortress. Praise the anointed people. Save your people, bless Israel, your special possession, and lead them like a shepherd, and carry them in your arms forever. And now, Proverbs 20:24. Please get your foot off my Bible. Thank you very much. 20:24-25. The Lord directs our steps, so we try to understand everything along the way. So why try to understand everything along? Don't trap yourself by making a rash promise to God, and only later counting the cost. God's Alfie. Great expectations or not. Great expectations or not. Thank you, baby. You made my mood better. Thank you for your kisses. Thank you for your kisses. Great expectations or not. When Israelites, what's up? What's up? When Israelites saw the new temple foundation, some loved it and some did not. Older guys were disappointed because it was not as grand as the previous temple. Young people loved it because they had never seen anything with such promise. Expectations exceeded. People people differ and not always because one is right and the other is wrong. They just have different experiences and expectations. Rather than judge those who disagree with us, we need to accept that those who differ may be as right as we think we are. And now, chat, I'm going to turn off this camera, ask for clarity, wisdom, discernment of the day's word, and be right back. Forgive me for such poor reading at the beginning. Man, well, we got a reset. We had a reset. Let's turn off this mic. Welcome back, chat. So today, chat, we read from August the 6th, coming from Ezra 3 1 through 4, going through verse 23, then 1 Corinthians 2 6 through 3, going through verse 4, then Psalms 28 1 through 9, and then Proverbs 20 24 through 25. Ezra 3 1 through 4. Um, is perspective. So Ezra, um, the main message from Ezra today is perspective, right? And our main place that we get that from is um, just like we just read right then, um, the people of the times, right? The people of the olden times didn't quite um, like what was built, right? They had seen something better before, right? But the people who were new to the world, when they saw it for the first time, you know, it was the biggest and grandest thing to them, right? So today we learned about perspective, right? And varying different perspectives and how just because our perspective is different than somebody else's doesn't make it wrong or right, right? They can have their own perspective and we can have ours. And just because they may clash doesn't mean anybody's right or wrong in this scenario, right? Um, so it showed um, the coexistence of different perspectives in the same area and still no war, right? So no fighting, even though I think differently than you. And now let's go to our next one today is 1 Corinthians 2 6 through 3. This is another perspective verse, right? And the perspective here is coming to show us um, more so than anything how much growth we still are capable of. Um, I chose not to say to do in that sentence because when you say how much growth we have left to do, it sounds like a chore. And when you say capable of, it brings more optimism to the scenario, right? So, um, this perspective shows us how much more room we have to grow, right? Um, how we still argue over such little things that don't matter in the grand scheme of stuff. Um, how we still can be so divided over things that don't matter shows how much room we still have to grow. So, um, this was more so perspective on us, right? And to be accepting of the fact that there is still room to grow. And that's fine, and that being okay. So, make room for new growth. And now let's talk about Proverbs 20:24 through 25. So the Lord directs our steps, so why try to understand everything along the way? Don't trap yourself by making a rash promise to God and only later come counting the cost. Okay, so we have two verses here. So we have two verses here. Let's not get caught up in the weeds is the first verse, right? You know, there are quite a few intellectuals of the world, right? Sometimes I play my part in there as well, right? um, but this is not getting caught up in the intellectualism. Um, maybe I made that word up. We'll see, right? Trying to figure everything out, right? Trying to understand something that we don't yet comprehend, right? And trying to understand it along the journey instead of um, gaining the wisdom now and letting that wisdom show you what you thought you were going to miss, right? Um, we're trying to understand God with only half the lesson, right? We're trying to understand what God does in our life with only half the lesson, how God moves with only half the lesson, right? Um, and I want you to ask yourself, how well have you done on most tests in your life when you only studied half the material? I mean, sometimes, you clutch it, right? And then sometimes, You figure out that you should have studied more. Right? So this is really what this verse is saying, right? How about you stop trying to figure everything out along the way? How about, gain all everything you need to learn, right? Instead of missing things that you were supposed to learn because you got caught up somewhere in the weeds, right? And then once you gain the wisdom you were meant to have in the first place, then you can use that wisdom that you gained to more understand the Lord, rather than trying to understand how God is moving with only half the material. All right, so that's the first verse 24. The Lord directs our steps, so why try to understand everything along the way? All right, and then now let's talk about verse 25. Don't trap yourself by making a rash promise to God and only later counting the cost. And this goes out to all my people out there, right? Who are like, God, I'm gonna change my ways. I'm gonna do everything right. If you just do this one thing for me. No, you're not. No, you're absolutely not, brother, sister, friend. No, you're absolutely not. So stop. So stop saying stuff that you're not gonna do. And this is not to say that you are not capable of this. This to not hurt yourself in the future, and to not turning God into the villain of your story because you hurt yourself by not accomplishing what you thought you would be able to accomplish. How about you work your way through, right? How about when you tell God you're gonna change something, change one thing at a time. Don't try to throw the whole roster of things you need to change at the one time, right? Don't try to throw the whole roster of everything I'm gonna change right now, God, for this one thing. No, you're not. No, you're not. Stop it, right? You know, um, how about just change the one thing at a time? How about just take it one step at a time? You know, and then more progress will happen before you know it, rather than trying to do everything at once. You know, and that's really what this verse is trying to tell you, right? Stop trying to do everything at once. Take it one step at a time. Stop capping out to God, bro. You know you're not gonna do that. So don't even say you're gonna do that, bro. You're not ready for that change yet. So it's okay to not be ready for that kind of change yet. Choose something else. There's something else that you're more willing to change than the last thing you're not willing to change yet. Work your way up to that point, and then you'll be ready to change whatever it is in the future. But take it one step at a time. So verse 25, don't trap yourself by making a rash promise to God and only later counting the cost. Take it one step at a time. Don't make God a villain in your story later on because you didn't achieve the thing you told God you were going to be able to do. You know? So Proverbs verse 20, 24 through 25. In chat, that is the end of today's 1 year Bible read. I thank God for that reset. I needed that reset. I don't know what was going on, but I needed it. Um, and let's hit this outro if you've never seen this outro before. We all got that limitless core, baby. I appreciate you. I might even love you, but I'm for sure glad you woke up today. Um, Thank you for your presence as always, whether it was for a minute, a second, a millisecond, or you've been with me for a while now. I truly do appreciate it, no matter how long it is. And we will be doing the 50 shot challenge again on the channel because I will not stop at a 47 out of 50 stream. I did finish it after stream ended, but I would not tolerate that kind of stuff for me. Not for me, buddy. So the next time we do that 50 shot challenge, we will finish it well before our phone dies. well before the phone dies. You feel me? I can admit I kind of let myself down, and I was very upset with myself about that. Um, but it's cool. It happens, and I know that's well within my means. So we will be doing that 50 shot challenge again on the channel, and we will be finishing it well sooner. I played around too much. I'm still gonna play around, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm gonna be more efficient. I'm gonna be more efficient. You feel me? So um, y'all have a great rest of your night, because I'm gonna have a great rest of mine, and I'm gonna see you next time. Peace. 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 Because that was a crazy angle.